Okay. Hello, Timo. The earlier webinar, Cemaja told FutureBio project, but it was in Turkish. So I want to little talk about our project. Okay. FutureBio project is an Erasmus Plus project, which supported by the Turkish National Agency. And the full name is Let's Use Biodegradable Plastic for the Future. And its aim is increasing the awareness and usages of the biodegradable plastics. And that's why we have 4 different outputs. Educational materials. Yasemin Öztekin from Selçuk University is managing the curriculum. Laboratory videos. In the first meeting, we decided to two type of videos, like for children and for university students. And VR tools are under your management. And lecture guidebook. For increasing the awareness for greener world, digital tools, digital education plan. FutureBio has 11 partners from 6 different countries, which is very big group. And it was very nice to meet all of you at the first meeting. I will say the first. I'm sorry. I will keep you wait. Arzum Hoca sent a message. I had to look that. I'm sorry. I'm continue. We have 11 different partners. Pamukkale University, Control Reality, Cosvitek, FBK, Indivenier, Kırklareli University, OTH Rezenburg, Selçuk University, SUPSI, Unitrento and Technical University of Cluj-Napoca. And this was our first kickoff meeting. It was very, like I said, it was very fun to meet all of you. And you showed us some VR application. We tried to use VR glasses, and it was fun also. And thank you for that again. Okay, if you are ready, we can start with your presentation.
Yes, sure. Let's start.
Okay.
Okay. So today we are going to take a look at how Metaverse tools can be used in the sectors of learning and education. And of course, when we talk about Metaverse, that's a thing, new term that hasn't been in use for a long time. And maybe not everybody is yet quite accustomed to what that really means. So at least when I talk about Metaverse, I refer to the sort of ecosystem of different VR and AR applications and platforms. So to me, that's like all of AR and VR when used in context of for example, learning or different kind of applications together, not just one single platform or one single product, but all of them combined. And when we take a look at how those are used currently in learning, for example, we have basically a few categories of different products and different types of products that are being used. First of all, I think we have the most simple form of any kind of VR applications, any kind of virtual or extended reality, and those are the 360 images. Of course, that's something that can also be used in web browser experiences, for example. But in this context, I will only refer to use of VR glasses with them. Then we have interactive VR, which takes a step forward, which brings us to the sort of real world of VR, where you use your hands to do things. And then we have the cooperative use of VR, like in multi-user environments where we bring in different people in, and then you can actually interact with other persons as if they were in the same space with you. And then finally, we're going to take a quick look at the use of AR, augmented reality. Now that takes us to the world at this moment. The world of AR is maybe getting closer to VR in the sense that there starts to be different kind of mixed reality or augmented reality headsets, but still mostly the use case is with traditional mobile phones. But we'll take a look at that at the very end. So first, the uses of 360 images in VR. Well, that's of course sort of the most simplest way of creating virtual environments, when all you have to do is to take a 360 picture with VR, preferably a 360 stereo picture, which gives you a very good feeling of being in a real world place that really gives you this sort of sense of scale in environments and gives you very much the same feeling as if you were on site in real world location. And that itself can be used to very great extent in learning applications when, for example, training what different places have looked like, or, for example, take students and learners to places that you couldn't go to for real. For example, you can take a whole classroom of students to visit in very rapid pace different parts of the world, maybe different historical sites, or, for example, different factories that, for example, in this context of our project, would be creators or producers of bioplastics. And you can show different aspects of those areas and focus on really sort of curated content within those areas. Contrary to, for example, actually visiting a site, where if you have a group of people walking around a factory, there are a lot of hazards that you have to mind to. And then, of course, there are things like how do you focus to the right parts of the site at hand. So in VR, what you can really do is prepare the content and have a very curated tour into these sites that you can present using very, very easy to create 360 pictures. All you have to do is to go there once and take the pictures with a specialized camera, bring them in a suitable platform. There are, of course, a lot of 360 platforms available readily, and then put those in the VR headsets. And you have a very lifelike experience, and you can try to use that to your advantage. But of course, that already requires the VR headsets that all of these experiences require, and that might be a thing that still is a bit difficult at times, especially for a whole classroom. But then again, if you turn also that around, it might also allow you to, for example, have very personal learning experiences where different people can just be in those places as long as they like, if you aren't taking a whole group at the same time to see everything. So that's also one possibility, that the learners can have very personal experiences and sort of control themselves what they are seeing and at which pace, which also makes very personal learning experiences that work very well in certain contexts. But that is the very most simple application of Metaverse. That may be, well, there might be persons who say that that's not yet Metaverse, but I'd say that it is. It's part of the whole Metaverse ecosystem.
Yes.
But then when we go further, the next step is interactive VR. And now we get into the most typical kind of VR applications where you see real world modeled environments, or they don't have to be real world, but they are really modeled environments where you can move. 360 pictures, for example, don't allow you to move freely, take steps. They are from single points in the space. But when we use interactive VR experiences, you can walk around, and especially you can do things with your hands. And then we enter a space where users or learners can, for example, try out how different mechanical equipment works. For example, in factory, you might be able to try out how differences or how different processes differentiate if you use the tools and how they are used, and you can learn what it is to actually do those manufacturing processes, for example. or you can equip or use large machines that you couldn't do otherwise, and get the perspective of those who, for example, do heavy machinery usage all the day. So that really gives you a good perspective into how things are done for real in, for example, manufacturing sites. And what that really does also is that you get to do things and not just to see things and learn things. And you even get to learn, for example, things that go to your muscle memory. So you can repeat and see how, for example, different large pieces of machinery are maintained, for example. So that takes you to a very close experience of what it would be like to use something for real in the physical world. But in this space, you can do it many times at any risk or hazard of using heavy equipment, for example. But that's still usually done alone. Of course, there can be different kind of recordings done, and different guides can be there with you that are virtually created. But those are still sort of very personal and experiences that are experienced alone. And then when we take one step further, and now we get to the part that is at least currently most talked about as a metaverse experience, is when we introduce different people into the real people, into the same environment as you are in VR. How usually in our cases this goes is that those persons introduced are, for example, teachers. There can be a group of students virtually in a space, and then we also get the teacher in the same environment. And what VR introduces into this mix is that the teacher doesn't have to be, for example, in the same geographical location. So you can introduce experts of different fields from, for example, around the world. We could have for example, in context of this project, we could have a manufacturing plant in Germany, and then the German expert of the plant could be telling the students from maybe Turkey how that plant works and what are the specific things relating to this very plant. And then nobody would have to travel anywhere. They can do that very much like they would if they would travel, but instead everybody stays at their home, and they wear VR glasses, and then they can really interact with each other still as if they were really visiting the place. So that brings us to the very most high-tech solution, cutting-edge solution right now of metaverse for learning, and allows us to really, for example, take into account different sustainable aspects of large projects, for example, and instead of traveling, you can travel with VR and not take many flights, for example. So I believe that is the thing that is currently developing a lot, and we haven't seen yet quite many experiences that take into use these multi-user experiences, especially in the fields of learning. But we are getting there, and there starts to be projects doing this, but they aren't very public yet at the very moment. But that is the collaborative aspect. And then if we take the last step and see how augmented reality is used in learning, then of course we have to switch the whole mindset around. We aren't actually using VR headsets to go to different places, but instead we augment, for example, a real location with digital information, with maybe digital characters. Now, most commonly, these kinds of experiences are located, for example, cultural heritage sites, where you can introduce maybe historical characters telling their stories for the learners, and really that way emphasize learning and bring, for example, new perspectives into the otherwise, for example, empty ruins. So augmented reality is something that is best when experienced at the authentic site, but with added virtual content that can be from characters to just virtual displays of information, hotspots as we talked about them. And that really is a different way of thinking and learning, but something that's, I'd say, both at the moment, the easiest approach to metaverse learning, because you can usually do that with your own mobile device. You install an app, and then you use the augmented reality experiences that way. But then, of course, that's still kind of limited window into this virtual or augmented world. And what is really developing are kind of augmented reality glasses that allow you to see the world as if with VR glasses, but that would really still let you see the real world environment as you would without the glasses. So that's a developing thing, and I hope that in sort of few years we get some practical examples of that learning. But at the very moment, augmented reality is still best when used with traditional mobile phones.
For AR, I wanted to use AR technology. Can you put the mute again? I'm hearing my voice again.
Yeah.
Okay. For AR, I wanted to use AR technology for elder people, for Alzheimer people. When they see their relatives or their friends with those glasses, I wanted to show their name. When they see that people, I wanted to put their name, information, which is related. But then I find out when we add their photos on the database, it has to be matched like 1-to-1 scale. Otherwise, it couldn't be recognized. It, so I couldn't use that. Is it? Is there anything? Is there any other solution for that? Do you know? Do you know that?
Well, of course, basically all metaverse or AR and VR experiences are, of course, best when the content is in real life size. So then you get the real relation of when people view at the content, they can really feel as if they would see those persons for real if they are life sized. But of course, there are different options that gets you to go around that issue, and technical limitations start to pretty much be solved. So there usually is a technical solution for that. But then mostly it's about the content and what kind of content fits best that use case and how people react to it. And that's, of course, a very different thing.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, but on my behalf, that's the very quick tour of Metaverse for learning applications and the possibilities of how to take those into use, starting from the very easy ones, which is the basic pictures, to more advanced modeled environments, in which you can use your hands and learn by doing. Then finally, to the introduction of multi-user experiences, collaborative use, where we can have, for example, a remote teacher. And then finally, the AR solutions that are very different or sort of turns the whole solution around, but then introduces new possibilities that can be used if you have a very authentic environment you want to augment with new types of content.
Okay.
Yeah, if we look at what we are doing in this project to return to that very subject, within the project we are actually creating first these 360 environments. So we, for example, the idea is to go to different bioplastics manufacturing plants and introduce the public with the idea what it looks like to produce bioplastics, and then how they are used in real life, and then of course how that helps to protect the environment, for example.
Okay. I was asking that. It was great to answer that. I'm also I wanted to plan for we have Alzheimer disease project, Bremen. So I am planning the VR technology for them. And you said muscle memory. I'm thinking like they would be if they would be pick apple or fruits from the trees would be good for them, and some memory games would be good for them.
Yeah, that's a very good example of uses of interactive VR, as we
Yes.
call it. So then you can, of course, at the moment you should use the controllers, especially in experiences where you take things. For example, if you reach for an apple and take an apple, currently it's actually very easy or simple to do such experiences with VR and the controllers that that the people can then use. And then what really that gives you is that you get these movements of moving your hands, which especially if the experiences are geared towards elder people who might otherwise have less physical experiences or physical
Yes.
activities, then this allows them for a very natural way and the natural feeling way of having very curated experiences. What VR allows, for example, in that content is that you can tailor the experience automatically to, for example, based on the person's height, or we can recognize how far the persons are able to move their hands and then scale the experience for them so that they don't have to try and get the apples from too high up, but we can scale it to the right height for each person automatically.
I didn't think that. Uh, okay, thank you for that tip. Okay, is there anything you wanna add?
Well, from my part, that's it. But it's of course very interesting to be working in this kind of a project where we get to combine sustainability and environmental issues to the very cutting edge VR applications. So that's a very good and interesting context to work in.
Yes, and it's exact. Okay, thank you for today. Thank you for topic and your thoughts. See you next projects, next activities.
Yes. See you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.